Welcome back, everyone, to the Unlock podcast. I am Sergio Pernas, your host. This podcast is brought to you by Greenovate Europe. We are here to talk about the EU-funded Unlock project, which aims to convert chicken feathers into bio-based plastics. In each episode, we explore different aspects of the project, focusing on the contributions of our project partners. Today, we're joined by Charalambos Panayiotou from Atlantis Consulting. Pambos, you are warmly welcome, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Sergio. I'm glad I have this opportunity to talk.
Why don't we start introducing us to Atlantis? What do you do? What does Atlantis Consulting do?
Well, Atlantis started in 2000. Primary purpose is environmental management. And believing that sustainability comes with consolidating economic development with environmental protection. And this is best driven by innovation. We're a very keen supporter of eco-innovation. So we do a lot of work in promoting eco-innovative projects within our activities. Our services, they focus on 4 items mainly. The first, environmental monitoring and assessment. We do a lot of work doing biodiversity monitoring and mapping in the field, water quality monitoring, air quality, environmental noise, and land use. Impact assessment, environmental impact assessment is the main core of our services for industry. And that has to do with also strategic environmental assessments, carbon footprinting, life cycle assessments. Resources management, we do a lot of work on that with public authorities, of course, and developing strategies for environmental resources sustainable management. That includes work like combating desertification risk and land degradation, waste management, water resources, and environmental quality, mainly urban environments. In eco-innovation, we do work in Horizon projects as exploitation partner, but we also do a lot of project development using eco-innovative technologies, where we do the feasibility studies, technology transfer, and business plans.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. And from all the things that you do, what is the role of Atlantis in Unlock?
In Unlock, we were the exploitation partners, so we were responsible to actually develop the exploitation and business plans. It was quite a challenging project, and it was very interesting for us because it had a lot of steps in the value chain, a lot of organizations. It's a very unique product, producing agricultural products using feathers. So a lot of the things within the value chain were for the first time developed, and our job was really to find the value proposition of the whole value chain and optimize business models for each organization within the value chain, so that it's viable for everybody. And based on those business models, we developed detailed exploitation plans and detailed business plans for all the organizations that actually own commercially exploitable results.
Mm-hmm. Talking about exploitation, which is a very interesting word, what would you say is the difference between exploitation and dissemination in a project like Unlock?
Well, exploitation is a very specific activity that concerns the use of the results. You have to find pathways and methods to maximize the use of your results. Some of the results, for example, the seed trays we have developed in Unlock, or a process like the steam explosion process, those have a good commercial exploitation potential. They're useful in the industry. And so we have to find the best pathways of actually bring them into the market. A lot of our partners are research organizations. They don't do industrial production. So part of our work was to develop a method and a business model for them to engage with an industrial partner. So together they can actually scale up the process and be able to produce at commercial scale. Now dissemination, it helps a lot when it comes to promoting exploitation because its main purpose is actually to make all the relevant stakeholders aware of what we did and our results. So it has to do with really publicizing to the widest possible extent what we have achieved and what we can offer.
And in the use of these results that we were talking about, what are the key exploitable results that we have identified in Unlock in this project?
We're very lucky to have a lot of different interesting results, actually. You can group them in three types. The first is the commercially exploitable results, and we have end products that can be used in the agricultural sector, like geotextiles, seed trays, hydroponic foams, and mulches. So these, they're targeting the agricultural sector. To produce this, there are different kinds of technologies that are involved, upstream in the value chain. Like you have to condition the feathers first, so they are suitable for further use, and then you have to really pre-process them. Things like steam explosion and microbial fermentation, the processes that were developed, actually they were optimized within the Unlock project to be suitable for feathers. And so those are actually creating the primary materials that can then be used to produce the end products. So these technologies, these processes are themselves a product, a result of Unlock that also can be utilized outside of the Unlock value chain, so they do have a commercial value. Then we have the results that can be used not commercially. We have a lot of know-how and data that was created that can be used for additional research, for training, for standardization. And it's very important to know that we can use the results for demonstration of the benefits of the Unlock products, which is quite useful to actually developing policy. And it's important in this case because, as you probably know, usually bio-based materials are more expensive than conventional materials. And so a policy to actually push them in the market, whether it is by regulatory enforcement or subsidies or some other form of support, is usually necessary. And so the demonstration value of our results is quite important.
Mm-hmm. Well, lots of different paths I'm seeing here to take with the results that Unlock is discovering us, is showing us, no? The commercial, the research, all the data, even policies. So to try to make it a little bit more easy to understand, what would you say is the exploitation roadmap now that the project is about to finish?
Right. Well, as you correctly say, it's a lot of different types of results, and each of them has their own, let's say, barriers and drivers to actually being able to enter the market or to make an impact. And so for each of them, we're creating some of the important steps and actions that the partners have to take in order to maximize this exploitation potential. Now, some of the key activities, of course, our partners that are research organizations, they need to proceed with negotiations and agreements with industrial partners to engage them into the value chain. This is very important because without them, we cannot really produce the product at commercial rates. So this is the first part. Once this is achieved, there's some optimization to be done in collaboration with the industrial partners for optimizing and scaling up the process. And once this is done, you can finalize the value proposition. You know exactly your costs, so you know how much you can price your products, so you can update the marketing and sales strategy that we have now created. That's the third step that needs to be taken. And of course, after that, you have to engage with activities that promote your product into the market. So these are the 4 steps in the roadmap for getting into the market. We do have an additional activity for joint research to be continued within the Unlock project team. There are a lot of results that have been created that are useful for further researching maybe new materials using feathers or optimizing the processing technologies. So there is a research action plan that is being done and should be implemented. And lastly, we do have the dissemination and demonstration material. So there is a plan which is more intensive in the first year after the project, which has to do with promoting these results and demonstrating the value to policy developers, to the academia, to organizations that can take those results and maybe make further use of them.
Okay. And before we're going to be with Unimos, another partner, and with Unimos, we're going to talk about an idea, which is the idea of what's going to be beyond Unlock, right? When Unlock has finished, what's going to happen? So this is like kind of the future, but I would like to ask you, like in your expertise, what will you think it will happen with the project once it's finished?
The project has some very good potential. Okay, the results, especially some of the results, but they do face some barriers, which are going to be an issue unless very carefully tackled in the first maybe year of the project. Now, technologies and results like the conditioning of feathers, that I think will proceed quite quickly. And the main reason is that in addition to having the technology and the process well set up, the organization that owns the process also owns the feathers. It's a slaughterhouse. So it's the first step of the value chain. And it's a complete step. And because the conditioned feathers, ground and sanitized feathers that they can produce, they have a market and within the Unlock value chain, but also outside of the value chain, to third parties. So I believe that's the first thing that's going to be put into the market and being exploited. The other technologies, the end products, they are going to need to engage an industrial partner. That's quite important. It's not clear if they can manage in the first maybe 2-3 years of the project. A main barrier would be the price. So I think there's good potential, but there's still some policy development required. It is expected that this will happen in the next few years. For example, additional subsidies for bio-based products or a more strict regulatory enforcement, especially targeting the removal of plastic materials from the agricultural sector, because that would be a key driver that will motivate users to divert from plastic materials to bio-based. So even at a higher price, there will be a market.
Mm-hmm. Well, we clearly looks like we have a bright future. Unlock has a bright future in front of it. So to finish, I would like to thank you for joining us today and for explaining us your essential work in the Unlock project. Charalambos Panayiotou, again, it has been a huge pleasure. And again, thank you so much for being here. I've really enjoyed doing this podcast, and it's been extremely clarifying.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and I wish the best to our Unlock partners.